Good morning, Music 207. It's a beautiful, bright day. I'm going to be talking through our second last keyboard lab. It's right here. Both of the last two keyboard labs that we are going to be doing deal with 6 church modes that are talked about in your book. So there are two types of question to answer on this particular keyboard lab. First of all, there are 2 figured basses. And the figured basses work exactly the same as they have always worked. You just figure out what the chords are based on the inversion numbers, if any, underneath the bass line. And one of the nice things about this is the inversions have gotten a lot simpler. The chords are a little bit more different, but if you look at example number 2 down here, no numbers at all. That means everything here is in root position. Both of these are in the key of a mode. It's not a straightforward major or a straightforward minor. It's a modal major or a modal minor. And if that doesn't make sense, I'm going to ask you to refer again to another one of the videos that I made where I talk about modes and the key signatures of modes. But for this particular lab, all we have to do is look at where the figured bass example ends. That last note in the bass is an F sharp. Therefore, this is in the key of F sharp. The last note in the bass of this one is G. Therefore, that's in the key of G. But now we have to figure out which mode of G and which mode of F sharp we're talking about. So, F sharp major has 6 sharps. The modal key signature over here is 3 sharps. So it's not F sharp major. F sharp minor has 3 sharps. What do you know? So it's got the right key signature for F sharp minor. But when we look at the 5 chord, we notice that there is no leading tone. There's no E sharp. So what that means is we're looking at F sharp Aeolian. Aeolian is a modal scale that is exactly the same as natural minor, to a fault. There are no accidentals. So the first example is F sharp minor. The second example is in the key of G. G major has 1 sharp, and G minor has 2 flats. We have a key signature of 2 sharps, I should say a modal key signature. That's closer to G major, but G major has 1 sharp. This has 1 additional sharp. And again, if you go back to the short tutorial on modal key signatures, that's what happens in a Lydian major scale. We add 1 sharp to the key signature to make it Lydian, or if you like to think in terms of scale degrees, we change scale degree 4 to scale degree sharp 4, and that's what makes Lydian sound like Lydian. So, very slowly, if we look at the first example in F sharp Aeolian, which is the same thing as F sharp natural minor, our first chord is a root position F sharp. Then after that we're followed by an E major chord, then a B minor chord, and a C sharp minor. I have parentheses around this bass note because it's just a passing note. Root position A major chord. Underneath, it's very small in the video, but on your paper you'll see 8 goes to 7. So that means the A that I'm doubling moves down to a G sharp, and back to B minor, then to an A major chord in first inversion, and then here's an E major chord with a 4, 3 suspension, and goes back to 1. So altogether, a little more evenly, this sounds something like now, the one on the bottom is in the key of G, and it's one of the major modes, but this major mode has an extra sharp in it, so this is G Lydian. And scale degree sharp 4 in Lydian is C sharp. So all the chords that had C natural and G major now have C sharp in them in G Lydian. So the first chord is a G major chord, then we get a D major chord, then an E minor chord, and then here's an F sharp minor chord. That one sounds different. Back to G major, A major, so one more time a little bit more evenly with that. Then we go down to the bottom. Down at the bottom I have a very short excerpt from a Bach chorale. It's in C major. Very nice, no sharps, no flats. You'll notice that for the first three chords I've drawn a circle around the soprano, the alto, and the tenor because it's easier to play those chords, I should say those three notes, in the right hand. Then after that you can just play, left hand's got tenor and bass, right hand has alto and soprano. So here's what the C major version, just as it's written, sounds like. What I'd like you to do is play one modal variation. So play the original just like I did in C major. It can be slower than that, that's fine. Let me show you a few examples. So if we decide to change this C major to C Lydian, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding one sharp to the key signature, that's F sharp. So that means now as I play through this, the main difference is any chord that used to have an F natural now has an F sharp, and that's going to affect some chords more strongly than others. So here's what this sounds like. Exactly the same thing, but now all the Fs are F sharp because now I'm playing this in C Lydian, not C major. It sounds like this. Here we go. Now I'm going to play the same thing in C Mixolydian. That's the other, or one of the other major modes. Mixolydian adds one flat to the key signature, so that means that now all the chords that had B natural, they'll now have B flat. So here's what this sounds like in C Mixolydian. I love that minor 5 chord at the end. That's one of the characteristic sounds of Mixolydian. If we decide to play this in C Aeolian, that's exactly the same as natural minor. So the key signature of C minor is 3 flats. And the difference between ordinary minor scales and Aeolian minor scales is we make no variation whatsoever to the key signature. So A is always A flat, B is always B flat, E is always E flat. So here's what this sounds like in the key of C Aeolian. Just to give you one more example, this is what this would sound like in C Dorian. Now Dorian adds one sharp to the minor key signature. So C minor has 3 flats. If we add one sharp to 3 flats, what that means is we lose one of our flats. So the key signature of C Dorian is just 2 flats. That means that all the chords that have B now have B flat, and all the chords that have E now have E flat. So here's what this sounds like as C Dorian. So you're going to play this twice. One time just as written, then the second time in some other mode, either major or minor, of your choice.